Hello guys, welcome back to River Rock channel. So today, in this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit of the thinking of globalization, since globalization is a very frequently mentioned topic. And actually, with these 10 to 20 years, we have seen great prosperity, we have seen financial crisis, we have seen like regional conflict, and so on. So this episode is basically, I'm not going into too many of details, but I'm going to outline several key issues, helping people who subscribe my channel to actually understand what really happened behind the term globalization and what it actually means and how and what it actually leads. So thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. Alright, so in the future, if you guys like it, I will definitely make more of these content like this. So I have to talk about, there's a word that's often being used to describe our financial system and also the dollar system. So we describe all this, the metal, all these, for example, World Bank. We talk about IMF, International Monetary Fund, and Federal Reserve, all these national or international kind of organization as the world order, right? So the term world order actually means all these organizations, international organizations, they're working together, creating a system for us as citizens to live in. So certain rules that we're following, so we won't be killing each other for food, that we will have certain prosperity and protection of the market, they will regulate, etc., right? So the world order actually means that is the blueprint about globalization, right? Because the world needs to have an order. Therefore, this is a blueprint. After the Vol.1 and Vol.2, the top leaders around the world, the elites, they group around together and then talk about, okay, who is the winner, who is the loser, and can we create a currency system? Can we create a global financial system? Can we create a global military system? So it's those systems, and also the global legal system. So all these systems are the founding rock, or the bedrock of our society. So in this episode, I'm not going to focus too much on other things, but I will focus primarily on financial system. So first of all, let's look at petrodollar system. As you can see from the left chart, so how petrodollar recycling flows to US dollar. So thank you this guy for the chat. So here we see, first of all, this is the recycling system of US, ending up paying money, hot dollar, to the Saudi Arabian nation, and the Saudi Arabian nation gives oil to the U.S. because the energy, petrol oil is such a important resource. It's a very important commodity. It's the king of commodity. Everyone has to use oil, including your clothes and etc. So that makes petrol oil very important. So first of all, U.S. is the primary buyer of Saudi oil, and Saudi gets oil in exchange for hot dollar, because Saudi Arabian, these countries, they need US dollar for international exchange or transaction. Otherwise it'd be they would be ending up going to the street and asking everyone, hey, do you need some oil? Can I exchange for clothes? That kind of dumb thing. So Saudi gets the oil in exchange for dollar, and in exchange Saudi would use this dollar that they get to purchase the US bond as the main asset in their balance sheet. So that is actually supporting the US dollar value. After the Bretton Woods system, in the future we'll talk about a little bit about Bretton Woods system. So the US dollar itself, it has a value. It used to be a gold-backed currency, but now this is no longer a gold-backed currency. This is a credit currency. It's a fiat currency. And that is the reason why US dollar is pegged with the petrol. It's pegged with the oil. And the oil, the demand of oil actually support the value of the dollar system. So think of it as a strategic nation alliance between Saudi Arabia and also the US. Number 4, US lend out petrodollar to other emerging economy system for them to purchase more oil. So in that case, you're making more money lending out these petrodollar, right? You're lending out these petrodollar, these dollar. They're getting interest rate out of on top of their capital. The 5th one is Saudi and other oil producers use dollar for investment and it support the value of the dollar system. So what is the currency? Currency is something that you use to pay for services. The more you pay, the stronger of that currency gets, right? So if you are using all these US dollar to purchase those investments, maybe in a sovereign wealth fund, maybe in your hedge funds, that you're doing this, you're supporting the asset value. So that's why dollar is the king of the currency up to today. The reason why dollar is strongly pegged with the petrol system, and US and Saudi Arabia has a strategic alliances. So when you consider when you add everything up, that you are getting the full picture out of it. Okay. So next thing is central bank control scheme. So this is the bedrock of our global order, of the globalization, right? If you want to globalize your economy, you have to create a global currency, which is US dollar, and you have pegged that currency with one of the dominating resources and energy. So everyone has to use that currency, right? So you end up having a petrodollar system, but you still need a stronger system that would, facilitate all these transactions. Therefore, you create a central bank system. You create a central bank control scheme. So, first of all, the central banks create fair currency. Well, in the next episode, probably I'll be explaining the definition of fair, right? It's actually a lot of words. So, but here we're not going to explain, but, think of it as currency, which is not backed by commodity, right? In a few couple hundred years ago, like human society, different nations are using silver, you're using gold, you're using different jewelry, and for paying, they are supporting all kinds of payment system, right? But now we're using fiat currency. That means you're not going to give someone a silver. You're not going to give someone a piece of gold. In exchange for service or goods, right? Therefore, using the fiat currency, and that fiat currency is issued by government and maybe by financial institution. So central banks are subject to Federal Reserve System, since most economic systems require dollar for international transaction, and the institution responsible for the US dollar is the Federal Reserve System, which is a private bank. In the future, we'll be looking more into it. Okay, central banks issue currency. They issue and they also create currency out of thin air because that currency is a credit-based currency. It's not a commodity currency, and it is not in a gold-backed system. It's not in a Bretton Woods age. It used to be backed by the gold, but now the dollar is no longer supported by the dollar reserve, the gold reserve. Okay. So what central banks doing is basically create currency, and they also issue different kind of currency, and they also support, liquidity. The term liquidity actually means just, think of it as printing money. So they kind of support different, they create these dollar, and then they encourage people to use oil and also use dollar for consumption. And central banks use bond repo and other ways of purchasing the assets, for example, like mortgage-backed security and etc. So they could take back or release the liquidity out of commercial banks' balance sheet. So it's something like a water pump system. So human society is based on these very sophisticated banking system, it simply looked like a Roman, kind of empire. If you go back to 1,000 years ago, you lived in a Roman Empire, and there used to be a sewer, right? There used to be all these underground sewer system. So think of it like a water pump. So central bank is essentially like a water pump system, right? You need some more currency, you need some more of liquidity, you kind of pump it, right? If you don't want that much of currency or liquidity, you kind of suck it a little bit, and kind of control it through that pumper. Right, that is essentially about the central bank control system. So in this way, the globalization is actually developing through and on top of this structure. So the globalization could actually work because you have a central bank as an intermediary, as the channel of releasing and transacting all these transactions, and all of the capital transfer go through all these central banks. So that is very important if you want to start a globalization. So, and then after this globalization, you can see a very clear and strong phenomenon is that the decline of US dollar. Since US is done with the Bretton Woods system, the total amount of dollar printed therefore is not subject to the gold reserve. As a result, currency buying power quickly fades in these 100 years. So global financial institution quickly turns gold reserve and their like bankers' personal belonging and keep all the gold away from the public eye and keeping all these gold reserve in their own precious vault, right? Gold price is therefore rigged, and the gold price is not determined via the actual supply and demand of any gold mineral production, and the gold price is priced primarily and mainly through the COMEX paper gold. So a lot of very experienced gold trader would know what exactly I'm talking about. But what's behind this COMEX paper gold is actually I could make another 1 hour to 2 hour video for this. So I'm not going too detailed with it. But I'm going to say is since the globalization, the value of your dollar that you're holding has now decreased a lot. Right, so as you can see from the left-hand chart, right, you can see that the purchase power of your currency actually dropped a lot. And then you have QE1, you have QE2, you have QE3, and then you have all these COVID virus, right? Everyone stay at home, and then the Federal Reserve had to lower the interest rate, had to print more currency, and therefore drive up the deficit of the economic system. So this is what really happened. Guys, this is what really happens. So globalization is accelerator. It really kind of accelerates. It uses all these pumping machine to kind of stealing your money from your pocket. So you end up working for longer hours, right? That you may have a salary raise, like maybe you get paid like $10,000 this month, maybe next year you're paying like $12,000. But then you end up working more stressfully, and then you end up like having less of the job. Your value is slowly being taken, and transfer all these value to those elites, those bankers. So they are ruling out you. Okay. So what you are told about globalization is, first of all, you think that emerging country can participate in global value and supply chain and build their fortune, for example, like China, Cambodia, or whatever countries, right? Well, it's partly true, which I will explain in the next slide. The second thing is you probably imagine there will be more equal rights, more freedom of speech and individuality. And third, you're probably going to think there will be a better healthcare system, better structure of society. And fourth, you actually think you're probably having a solid job employment market, and all the economic system will be strong. Tomorrow will be better days and better labor rights preserved. And you think that, as a labor, you have more rights. You can, end up bargaining more to people who employ you. And then the fifth one is, you think the banks and financial institutions will be kept in the box, kept in a cage, and carefully watched and carefully regulated. The bankers will be punished more since they are the keeper of public wealth. and you actually think that the politician that you choose, that the president that you're electing, is going to be nice, gentlemen, keeping their promise, and they are going to give you more transparency of the election, which is nonsense. Okay, the last one is that you think there will be more diversification. You think there will be respect of different religion and color, such as like Black Lives Matter, but it actually ain't gonna happen. So the reality of globalization is actually the chart. If you look at the right chart, it's very famous. It's called the elephant chart. It actually shows you the 1% of people are getting most of the income. The global income distribution goes to this 1% of the people, the elite class. That is the ultimate reality. Okay, in responding to the last slide, I talked about, a lot of countries, for example, like Cambodia and China, these countries, their people are actually making some money, yes, but in the short run. In the long run, all this money will go to the real estate sector, it's going to the financial sector, it's going to, maybe the stock market, going to the commodity market, further drives up the, cost of living because it creates certain inflation, sometimes hyperinflation. So like very famous economists like Morgan Philman actually said this is a monetary illusion, right? You're creating all these currency. Therefore, the wealth is driven primarily because of the monetary policy. It's not because the purchase value has actually improved and the money that you're making, probably you're making a little bit more for these couple 5 years, but then your residual value would actually quickly dries out in the next 10 years. So it's basically like a scheme, right? I will give you a nice offer for the first 5 years, and then you make good living, and you will thank me for so much, right? You elect me for president, you love me. But then the next 10 years, I'm going to drive you crazy like hell, right? That's what essentially happened to globalization. You have a honeymoon, and then you have pain in the ass. So and then it turns out you have higher job hours, you have high inflation plus high healthcare costs. If you just look at American Insurance Act, you look at all this, and you end up having a worse education. So international corporations are taking all cash from overseas and avoid paying tax. Most of them, for example, like Apple and all Facebook, all these companies, they have their own hedge funds, right? They avoid paying tax. They pay less taxes, they make more money. So this is essentially what's happening. So you have a cheating presidents and a colluding political party coming together, changing all these acts, creating all these political correctness, colluding maybe with other countries, and then end up they're paying less for labor. They go to other countries like Cambodia, Zimbabwe, creating so they can benefit their capitalists. But then it ends up creating no job for people in America, maybe no job for people in UK. So this is what essentially is happening, right? So they are creating all this political correctness nonsense so they can stop you from focusing what is really happening, right? This is very dangerous, guys. So and also lastly, like it creates less cultural respect and less diversification. So this is the reality of the globalization. If you can subscribe my channel, I'll thank you dearly for it, because in this channel I mainly talk about the economy system. We talk about a lot of books. We talk about a lot of trading insights. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next episode. If you like the content I'm creating, please give a thumb button. What do you think is actually happening to our globalization? Please leave your thoughts on the comment section below so we can have a chat. So thank you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.